Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 291, Meal and Fitness Planning for Busy People.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we are obviously talking about meal planning and fitness planning for busy people. And what we've tried to do is we've really tried to incorporate ideas, whether you're starting at the very beginning and you've never really planned before, or healthy food hasn't really been on your radar too much before, all the way up to I'm a pretty good planner. I eat plant-based. I eat whole foods. I exercise on a regular basis. We've really tried to give tips and tricks throughout that whole spectrum to help you to improve your quality of life and reduce that stress that comes along with getting these tasks done.
Yeah, I think we identified a problem or a few problems that a lot of people are challenged with, and we provided some really solid tools for you to add to your tool belt to help make your planning, whether it's for your meals of the week or your fitness, to just make it a little bit easier so that you're able to spend more time doing the things that you want to do that are going to just make you a better person.
I think that you'll have some fun throughout this podcast, hearing what side of the planning I'm at and what side of the planning Adam's at and what's kind of innate for each of us. You'll learn a little bit more about us in that way. And we also planned ahead and asked our listeners out on Facebook for some tips, tricks, or questions that they had around fitness and meal planning. So we've incorporated those in. And I think that you will really be able to resonate with some of those questions and comments that came through there as well. If you want to make sure that you're joining in on those conversations, make sure that you're following us at Plant Trainers on Instagram and checking in on those Instagram posts, and also Plant Trainers on Facebook as well, because we really enjoy interacting with you there.
And for the information you're going to hear in today's show, if you want the show notes, you can get them directly at planttrainers.com/291. There will be links there with all the information that we shared today, and hope you love this one.
We wanted to share with you our 3 personal complaints that we have about cookbooks. And maybe you've heard this before, but sometimes we just don't know where to get the ingredients. Sometimes we buy an ingredient and we use so little of it that we have so much left over. What a waste for so many reasons. And number 3, you know that if there's no picture, I'm not making it. I want to see how they made it so that I could change it in my mind and make it exactly how I want it. And a bonus complaint is that we're just busy. I don't have time to spend 3 hours making some kind of fluffy thing that's not going to turn out properly. So that's why we created the Easy Recipes for Busy Parent cookbook. That's why we created the Easy Recipes for Busy Parents. This cookbook promises that you will find all the ingredients in no time, that we will use the same ingredients over and over again so that you don't have a lot of wastage or any wastage at all. And it'll be easy, and there will be pictures for every single recipe. If that's good enough for you, check out the link in the show notes or go to planttrainers.com/shop and get your cookbook today.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
The other day, as I'll mention again in the podcast, the children made us, what?
Nothing. That's what I was going to say.
The children made us dinner, and it was just wonderful on so many levels. From a selfish level, it was wonderful because I didn't make dinner. On another level, it was great because we were giving them the skills that they need to decide what's for dinner, write out their list of ingredients that they might need to shop for, and get it done. And then Adam oversaw it, and it was just so wonderful to watch.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Outside. I'm also grateful for the same thing because it was such a fun, awesome experiment that we went through. And it was, I think a lot of it was the way we presented it right from the start and made it exciting for them. And they took to it, and they were the chefs, the sous chefs for the day, for the 2 days. And the food actually turned out quite good.
Delicious.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so we very often talk to doctors, people with transformational stories, other experts in nutrition and fitness, and very often we ask for actionable tips that people can take. And very often people are saying, you should plan ahead, meal plan your fitness. But we've never really taken the time to break that down for you, because for some people, they're planners. That's what they do. It's really easy for them. For other people are like, they hear planning and I think they start to get heart palpitations, their blood pressure goes up, and they really don't know how are they going to do this. Some people just need a step-by-step suggestion on how to get this going. So what we thought that we are going to do is we're going to talk about how to meal plan and how to fitness plan so that your life could be a little bit more seamless, so that you can start to make some of the leaps and bounds that you're looking to make.
Now, for some of you, this might be obvious stuff and pretty basic, but I promise you that if you listen to the show, you're sure to grab a few tips or techniques that we use or that we suggest that maybe you didn't think about, maybe you aren't using, that could help tweak your planning and bring you to the next level. So don't shut this down just because we're talking about planning and you're a super awesome planner already. You might be able to pick something up that's new.
Also, if you're already a super awesome fitness and plant-based planner, then probably people are coming to you to look for advice or ask you questions. So sometimes if it's something that always works in your head, hearing us break it down today might help you to be able to communicate to others how to do it a little bit differently than they are. And basically what we need to look at first is say, like, what is meal planning and what is fitness planning? We know that the word plan means to think about or make steps in advance. So I think what we really need to think about here is in advance. How early in advance are you going to start to think about what it is that you want to achieve, and what are those steps that you're going to take to get that?
I mean, the biggest problem that people have is that they don't want to take the time to do the work to be able to get them to where they want to go. So they complain that they don't have the time to do the planning. They don't have the time to get themselves organized because they have so much to do in their lives. And they don't necessarily realize that putting in that time is going to save them time later on.
Okay, but don't come down too hard on people. Sometimes it's not that people don't want to, and therefore they're making excuses. Sometimes people really don't have the time, because if you're working on, if you're on a shift work and you've got children and you're taking care of elderly parents, there's lots of things that go on. I think the key is saying, if it's not working for you, I need to make the time, and when am I going to make that time?
So I disagree with you. I think everybody has the time and they're going to find the time. Every single person has the same amount of hours and minutes in the day, and that's how they use it.
I agree. What I'm saying is people can make the time, but I don't think that it's that people are too lazy and don't want to if they're not doing it already. Some people just don't manage their time properly. So what we're going to do today is we're going to help them think about managing their time better, and when are they going to put this in their schedule.
Right, but I do think people are lazy. I think people do think that it's going to be too hard, too complicated to make the time, so they don't.
Every single person who's not doing it now is lazy?
Not every single person. There are people out there that applies to. Obviously, there are people out there that it doesn't apply to, but there are plenty of people that are too busy to take a few minutes to organize themselves to get them to where they want to go.
So if you'd like to take the time to organize yourself to get you where to go, then this is what we're going to start to work on now.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is people just don't know how. They don't know what to start with. They don't know where to start. They don't know. They want to. They have the intention to organize themselves and plan properly, but they don't know what the first thing to do would be.
Right. And I think that people have already figured out that you were born organized, that it's something that works for you, that when you know you need to do it, you need to do it. And when I was in my teaching days, people used to say to me, "Oh my God, you're so organized. Everything's always so perfect." And that was me overcompensating for the fact that I am not an organized person. I'm more of a intuitive, feel how I feel now kind of person, knowing I need to do things, but if something else comes up that seems a little bit more important or pressing, then sometimes I go there. So sometimes my organization is great in certain areas, and other times it's really not. So you're kind of getting a mix now of two different people. I am not born organized.
I
I'm
don't
like
think
the opposite.
I don't think anybody's born organized. I mean, people are born with different personalities and different set of skills that they develop throughout their lives, and becoming disciplined and organized are both things that people can learn to do, whether you're born with it or not in your terms. Everybody can learn how to become more organized than they are right now.
I think so too. And I think that it's also the convenience that society has given us. I think that's getting in our way as well, because, 100 years ago, when there wasn't 3 restaurants on every corner and fast food restaurants, everywhere, and drive-throughs, people had no choice but to cook. People had no choice but to know what was coming up. When grocery stores didn't have every single product on their sign. I mean, if you go to a grocery store and they're missing like artichoke hearts or artichokes, and like we freak out because, oh my gosh, there's no artichokes and that's in my recipe. I think that there was a different understanding a long time ago of like, just keep it simple.
Artichoke hearts? That's
hearts.
Pretty random. That's pretty...
Well, I was having a conversation this morning because somebody had messaged me asking about hearts of palm and where they come from and if it's actually ethical to eat them. So I was kind of on this rant in my head of fingerling potatoes and artichoke hearts and all of these fruits and vegetables that sound like body parts.
Okay, let me reel you back in. Okay, we're talking about getting organized for a second and planning, and you just mentioned the word convenience. And as the world becomes more plant-based, because that's what's happening right now, in 2019 is going to be the year of the plant-based diet. And things are going to become more convenient, and there's going to be more accessibility of plant-based foods around the corner at those restaurants. As you could see, there's already some fast food restaurants providing us with plant-based burgers, and the convenience factor is great, and it's going to help improve a lot of aspects of everybody's lives, especially time and convenience, like you used before. But I want you to remember, and I want everybody listening to remember, that just because things are convenient doesn't make them healthy or good for us. And we still need to take the time to prepare for what we're going to do to be able to be the best version of ourselves. And I know we're talking about food, but this relates heavily to fitness as well.
It does. And when you talk about convenience, I mean, my head, I don't know what's going on today with us, but my head's going in the complete opposite direction. So I'm like, convenience. You walk into a supermarket and you have apples and bananas there. How convenient is that to eat as a snack on the way home in the car when you're starving because you just went grocery shopping? Or how convenient is it to walk to the store and not have to worry about parking the car and somebody hitting your car and all of these other things? So plant-based is quite convenient already. Healthy is quite convenient. Getting a pair of running shoes and just leaving the front door is quite convenient. Sometimes we overthink it and we make it too difficult.
Right. And the perspective that you just brought is not one that most people have, and they don't see it that way at all.
But when we don't plan our fitness, when we don't plan what we're going to eat, there's so many outcomes that could come of that, especially when people are trying to be more fit, trying to work out more, move their body more, trying to eat better because they're trying to deal with certain health issues that they come.
Are they trying to do it or they're doing it?
I think a bit of both. I think that if they're absolutely doing it, maybe this isn't the show that they're absolutely listening to still. I think that if they're trying to do it, then they're definitely still here,
well,
right?
People that are not planning their fitness, they're going to end up being less fit, period. They're not going to be able to maintain the physical conditioning, the shape that they want to be in. They're going to be tired more often.
They're not going to have the energy to put into creating better, healthier meals because they're going to be more tired. And, you're going to eat out more, possibly eat fast food more food binging, because if you don't know what the next meal is and you walk through the door, your mind's not going to what you need to do. You're going to start saying what can I eat now just to tide me over? And before you know it, you're going to eat half the fridge. You're going to be buying more pre-made food, and buying pre-made food might be part of your planning. But if you don't plan, you might rely on that more heavily. And then if you're trying to get your cholesterol down, get your blood pressure to be better, get your weight down, these are things that will be harder to achieve because you're not working out and your foods have more fat or more sodium in it. So you're not necessarily going to be fixing the health issues as quickly as you may have otherwise been able to.
You could also end up spending a lot more money on the food that you're going to be buying because you're not organized enough to be buying foods that you're going to prepare, and you have to buy prepared foods. So it's going to cost you a bit more money.
Right. And people are always saying plant-based foods cost so much more money. I mean, I don't think it's, rice and beans. We go back to that all the time. So cheap. But if you're looking at buying a pre-made pizza, frozen pizza that you're going to warm up, you could probably buy one for $2. I don't even know what they would cost for $2 with like real cheese and whatever. But if you're going to go and buy a Daiya one, or one that's gluten-free and vegan and all of those other things, you're going to be paying $10 a pizza. So in that case, yes, absolutely, you're going to be spending a lot more money.
But then again, if people take the time and they organize themselves and they go through the planning process, the results are dramatic. They're spectacular, or at least they can be if it's done properly. And I get it that people will have challenges and it's not going to be easy. But going through the planning process and using some of the tools we're going to talk about soon are really going to help people eat healthier foods and not have to go to fast food restaurants as often. They won't have to binge on their foods because they'll have prepared food that they planned and they organized. It won't cost them as much money otherwise.
And if you're someone who does want to join the gym, because having that community to get you there and that accountability from other people, then you save money on your grocery bills. You have that money to put towards, your gym membership or your fitness membership, or an awesome pair of running shoes, or a new watch to keep you motivated, whatever it is. But the more that you exercise, the more your fitness levels should improve. Your mood will be better. You'll be more energetic, and you'll be able to put more into your planning and day-to-day life as well.
There's just so many benefits to planning your day, planning your week, planning your fitness, planning your meals, that we could just go on and on with the list. But let's maybe move on and get into some tools that people could actually use to help them plan a little bit better than they are right now.
So for some people who want to cut down on the amount of planning before we've even started, these meal kits that are available, it's not something that we use on a regular basis. We've used it once, but if you can get 3 days worth of, let's say, dinners delivered to your door, then you only need to plan for the other days of the week, right? You only have 4 more days of the week to plan. And, you can make sure that those are plant-based, or maybe even buying into some kind of subscription that tells you what to make every week. Those are things that you have less control over what's going to be on your plate. But at the end of the day, it means less planning for you because you've just put your efforts more in terms of paying more to be able to get this planning for you. So I would say if you needed to cut down on the amount of planning, then that's a place where you can start. It will cost you more money, but that's a place to start.
And depending on where you are in your life, that may be something that you're interested in. And we talked about meal kits, if this is something foreign to you. We talked about it with Andy Levitt on episode 287, and we'll put the link to that episode in our show notes at planttrainers.com/291 so that you can check that out and learn more about meal kits and stuff like that.
But some people just want to do every day of the week on their own, kind of like we do. And it doesn't have to be every day of the week. You can say, okay, Sundays we eat out, or Sundays we take out, or Saturday night we go out with the family, or we go to our in-laws' house, whatever it is. Put that into your planning too, because you don't necessarily need to be planning for 3 meals a day plus snacks for 7 days a week. But for those people who are heavily planning, there are lots of resources out there to help you do that. For example, our Meal Planning Mastery, or our Easy Recipes cookbook, or any plethora of cookbooks out there. Take the time to browse, find meals that you make already, meals that are easy for you, and start to stick those in. There's a lot of resources online as well. And you won't have to be in charge of it every single week. So most weeks I do the meal planning. However, yesterday was a very busy day for me. So when Adam sent me a text saying, is there anything you need me to do around the house? I replied, yes. Can you grab the kids and decide what's for the dinners this week?
And what's good about that is it makes the whole family accountable to what we're going to be eating, so that when the meal shows up in front of them, they don't really say, oh, I don't want to eat this, I don't like this, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that chose that meal that they wanted to have.
And just because you've done that work, it doesn't mean that it's thrown out the window. It's not like an Instagram post that you cannot post again on your Instagram. Take that week's worth of planning and say, okay, every second week of the month, this is what we're going to eat. And then it's kind of done. So you can definitely reuse it.
Do you use a calendar or a schedule? Like, how do you map out what you plan when it comes to food or fitness?
Well, I think that it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. Some people use online schedulers.
I know what people use,
Some people...
but what do you actually use?
Okay, so what do I use? For my fitness, I actually use my brain. I use my brain.
And how is that working for you?
Well, it's working quite well because I know that when my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., I have two choices. I can either get up and do work and then work out at 9 o'clock after the kids are on the bus, depending on my day, or I can get up and go down to the gym and work out. So for me, in my life, in my schedule, Monday to Friday, that works for me. If you're having trouble with getting your workouts in, don't follow my lead. But for planning, I use a piece of paper every week and I put my grocery list on it, and then it sticks on the wall in the kitchen or up against the wall in the kitchen so that I know what's for dinner every week. I don't use a calendar for that.
So you leave a lot of room for error, is what it sounds like. And I know that works for you, but there's a lot of people like me who need more structure. And what I do is I use my calendar on the computer, whether it's a Google Calendar or the iCal, and I actually put my fitness sessions in as if it were a client that I'm meeting with or a class that I'm attending to. And that way I have the accountability on my schedule. And you could set alarms. I could set alarms to remind me, a reminder to do that workout. But I always check it the day before to see what's coming up the next day. And that way I know what I need to be prepared for. And I can get all my clothes ready the night before. I could get everything set up, and then off I go. So a lot more structure to the way I do it versus the way you do it. And that's okay. And the point of this was that everybody's so different and each person will have their own style, and each one has to find what's going to work for them to allow them to be successful.
So as you're talking, what part of the difference is your style versus my style. It's also that you're out coaching some mornings where, so if you're going to work out, you've got to wake up at like 5 a.m. to work out first, which sometimes you do. So for you, your schedule is a little bit more concrete than mine is on different days. But I have started to actually put it as an alarm. So every morning my alarm goes off and to get me to wake up and to tell me to do my gratitude and all of that. And then my second alarm goes off to say, get out of bed, get dressed, and go work out. At which point I make a decision on whether I'm working out at 6, or I've usually made it the night before, whether I'm working out at 6 a.m. or at 6:30, or if I'm working out at 9. But the difference is that all I'm doing is flipping the sessions, and I've already thought about that in advance. So it's not necessarily...
So there is a little more structure to what
Yes.
you made it seem before. So the more we talk about it, the more we realize that you're actually a little more structured than you made it sound.
Yes. So yeah, first alarm goes off and says, wake up in gratitude. Second alarm gets off and it says one of those Qbert words, get out of bed. And the third alarm goes off and it says, go work out. So for me on a regular basis, that's either go work out or go do work. And then I'll flip it. So yes, there is a bit more structure because I had gotten to a point where I wasn't getting out of bed. So I needed that more structure.
There's so much more great information coming your way. But before we get to that,
I know exactly what you're thinking. What do I make for dinner? How am I going to get it done? How could I possibly stay so organized that I won't have to run to the grocery store midweek? How do I know what you're thinking? Because I'm always getting emails, PMs, DMs, and I even get stopped in the grocery store to be asked the same thing. So this is what I want. I want you to be the master of meal planning. Just click on the link in the show notes or go to plantrainers.com/shop and I'll walk you through how to plan, shop, and prep for a full week's worth of food so you don't have to get the takeout that makes you feel bad and bloated, so you don't have to stay up till 10 o'clock at night making a perfect meal because let's face it, that's not going to help your health either. You need to be exercising, talking to loved ones, binging on Netflix. You can choose how to spend your extra time, but you don't need to spend that extra time running to the grocery store in the middle of the week, in the kitchen, or wondering what to make. Go to plantrainers.com/shop, click on the Meal Planning Mastery link, and for $27, become a rock star. And now back to the show.
Right. And so before we talked about how people might not know how to start or where to start, and I just want to bring that focus to fitness for a second. If you don't know where to start or what to start with, the first thing you need to do is find an activity that you enjoy doing and just go do it. Just start. Put one foot in front of the other. If it's running, just put your running shoes on or set your clothes out the night before and just go outside and walk or run. It doesn't have to be something crazy like signing up for an Ironman triathlon. Not that that's crazy. There's crazier things, but that's not what we're talking about.
Why does crazy have to be a negative thing?
I didn't say it was negative. It could be crazy good. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But find something that you enjoy doing so that you will be more likely to want to do it when you do see it on your schedule. And the other thing you could do is find someone to do that training with, do that fitness with, have an accountability partner. And if you've watched my Instagram lives lately or seen my posts, you know that once in a while I talk about fitness and training and motivation. And if you haven't seen them, check it out at Plant Trainers on Instagram so that you can stay in touch with what we're talking about, because we do talk about planning and prep and fitness and food quite often on there. The other thing you could do to help yourself out is keep a log or a journal of what your training sessions are. And that could go hand in hand with your meal plans that you're reusing. So you can take those papers that you write your meal plans on and you could have a little folder that you put them into, and so that you could always pull them back out a couple weeks later and reuse them.
I also have some clients who will say, I want to take an hour and I want to create a full month's worth of meals, and we'll sit together and create a full month's worth of meals, and then they reuse that for 3 months straight, and then we start again fresh in a new season. So there's different ways to go about this. I've also used a journal before in my life for fitness. So I have a specific fitness journal, and every time that I work out, I will write what the workout is. I'll write how I felt, however I'm feeling at the time, whether it's just concrete information or if I put emotion into it too. And then it's really fun to look back and see how many times did I write in it this week? How many times did I write in it this month? So for people who like to impress themselves, it's a really good tool as well.
And that's nothing new. And if you've worked with me as a fitness client, or if you've worked with another fitness coach or even nutrition, you know that journaling is super important. There's different ways to do it, whether it's digitally through an app or on paper. It's really important for a coach to be able to look back on your fitness and be able to see the progress, to be able to tweak things to get you to the next level and show what you need to do next. But it's also great for you to give yourself the feedback and see your progress as you move forward.
So on Facebook, I put it out there to some of the listeners to say, what questions, what advice do you have for this podcast? So Viraj asked us, how do you make sure that you have good nutritional balance and a good variety of foods in your diet? So I think that leads well into, how do we actually plan? How do we actually meal plan so that we could make sure that all of this is taken care of? Because for some people, they don't care about the nutrition right now. They're just like, just help me survive. But for some people, nutrition is forefront, and some people have gotten through that survival mode and now they're looking for a little bit more. So the first thing that you really need to do is you need to make time to plan. So like Adam said before, putting your fitness into your schedule like it's a meeting. Put the time to plan into your schedule just like it's a meeting. So if you do your grocery shopping on Sundays, maybe you want to plan on Saturdays. If you do your grocery shopping on Monday, maybe you want to plan on Sunday. But make sure that you show up and you plan almost every week at the same time. And if you have something else at that time, make sure that you reschedule it into another space.
And so the first thing you're doing is writing out the meals for the week so that you know what needs to go onto your shopping list. And then you're going to create your shopping list before you go to the store.
Yes. Now you could create your meals based on what you already have in your refrigerator and your cupboard from other shopping that you've already done. Or you can start fresh and just say, this is what I want to make this week. And then double check in your cupboards and your refrigerator as you make your grocery list. So make sure that you're not going out and buying cinnamon again when you already have cinnamon in the back of the cupboard.
Right. One of the best things that I think that we do, or that you do, is
I smiled there.
Yeah, is making a whole bunch of things at once. And that term is, I guess, batch cooking. And it's a very common theme now that people are running in taking a Sunday and just making so much soup, for example, and jarring it and possibly freezing it, but having it ready for the entire week so that you're spending some time on one day that's going to benefit you later during the week when you don't have the time to put into it.
Yes. And then sometimes we're just not available on Sunday for me to do that. So maybe I'll do it on Saturday, or maybe I'll make something early on a Monday morning, depending on my schedule. It doesn't work out every single week, but most weeks I can somehow manage it. And what I kind of do to balance that is we'll either eat out or take out or make a really easy meal on a Sunday so that I'm not, cooking up something Instagram worthy on a Sunday night, plus making the soup and cutting up the salad and cutting up the carrots and all that. Maybe we're making avocado toast with some kind of soup that I'm already making, or maybe we're picking up from the Thai restaurant. Those are things that I try to match together so that my efforts in the kitchen don't have to be quadrupled that day. The key at the beginning was sticking to things that I was comfortable making. So if it's a week where I'm rushed, or if I'm just starting out in batch cooking, then I'm going to choose a soup to make for the week that's really easy, or something that I've made 100 times before. If I'm overwhelmed, because I've been overwhelmed with this whole, how do I figure out how to meal plan? A couple of years ago, it wasn't something that was easy to me to cook for a big family. So I needed to kind of start from scratch. So it was all about making those easy things at the beginning that worked for me, and not taking every night to make something completely brand new to impress the whole family, because it was just too much pressure and too much stress, and we need a lot less of that in our lives.
And it also allows you time to spend doing other things during the week that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just focused on food all the time.
Right. So now getting back to Viraj's question, how do we make sure that we're getting in all the nutrients? So we've written out, so let's go backwards a little bit. Once you write out all those meals that you want to eat in a week, you need to sit and you need to reflect on that a little bit. So say, okay, maybe you're doing lunch and dinner. Breakfast you're not really planning for, but maybe you're saying like, this is what I'll probably have for lunch. This is what we'll have for dinner. And you need to take a look at it and say, okay, did I get beans and legumes in today? Are my nuts and seeds in a meal, or am I going to have to get my omegas somewhere else that day, maybe in a snack? Do I have something green in every dinner? Is there a vegetable in every dinner? Is there other colors other than green in every dinner? Can I add something to the sauce? If I'm making sauce from scratch, can I add something to the sauce to boost up the nutrient density in there, right? We want to take a look at that. So
hold on. I want to be careful here, because we're starting to focus again on reductionism, like we talked about with Dr. T. Colin Campbell in episode 286, where we were focusing too much on one nutrient. And I think Viraj's question is an important one, because a lot of people get lost in the focus of finding proper nutrition through their food. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be complicated. We can keep things pretty simple. If you eat whole foods and eat a variety of colors, then you're going to get pretty much everything you need. Now, that's obviously going to be different for each individual based on any needs that they know that they're lacking in. So if you went for a blood test and you were told that, yes, you're missing some iron, you lack some iron in your diet, then yeah, you have to find foods that are rich in iron, and you'll need to consume them more often. But for the average person who doesn't have a specific nutritional requirement that they know they're deficient in, let's focus on eating whole foods, a variety of foods, and a variety of colors. Eat the colors of the rainbow every day, and you are going to be putting yourself in a very good place when it comes to nutritional value. Do you disagree?
I agree. However, not everybody who's looking for planning advice right now on this podcast is eating 100% whole foods all the time. Not everybody knows how to put in nutrients into their diet. So If we look at Dr. Greger, who I don't think is reductionist, I think that it's a little stricter, but I think he has an idea that not everybody's going to do the daily dozen every day. That if you have a checklist of things that you want to make sure that you're getting into your diet every day because you need to train yourself to eat these foods. If you're coming off of eating in restaurants every single day and you've never really cooked for yourself before, or you've never taken time to look at your food, or you don't get a blood test every year, or your doctor hasn't told you that you're deficient in something for one reason or another, you still need to have a sense of what you're eating. So at this point, when I plan, I don't say, okay, are we getting beans in our diet every day? Because most of our meals will have beans in it, whether it's chili or wraps or what have you. I mean, I'm at a point where we eat enough whole foods, and I've been doing this long enough for ourselves and for other people that I don't need to think twice about it. We eat whole foods. And if we don't get beans one day, or if we don't even get beans 1 week, we're not going to, end up dead on the floor. It's not the end of the world. But if we have a checklist of things when we're not used to doing these things, I think it's absolutely important, because you can have vegan grilled cheese with tomato soup every single night for dinner. And after a while, your body is going to start saying, okay, I need whole foods. I need,
But
I need
that's exactly
whole
what I
grains.
said. Eat a variety of colors. I didn't say eat grilled cheese every night for dinner and that's it. Right. And also to your point where the person who's going out for meals all the time, I could pretty much tell you that anybody who's only going out to eat all the time is not focused on what nutritional value they're getting from their food. They're not going to the restaurant and saying, am I going to get enough iron with this meal every time they eat?
But what if they are now saying, I've been eating in restaurants all the time. Now I want to take, we don't know what situation Virage is in, right? So, and there's many Virages out there. So if they're saying, how do I make sure that I'm getting nutrition? I think that they probably need a little bit more than just eat whole foods. They need ideas of what are these whole foods, or how do I make sure that I'm getting these whole foods in? Or if I was just getting all kinds of pre-made foods before, but now I want to start planning to do a little bit more cooking on my own, what are some of the things that I need to include? And if you have a checklist of greens, colors, whole grains, then it helps you to, it even sparks ideas in your brain of what kind of things to make. So if you see colored vegetables, you might say, okay, I'm going to make a big salad and I'm going to put in nuts and seeds and beans and maybe some quinoa or farro and get some grains in there too, so that I'm covering a lot of bases, so that if I can't eat well the rest of the day because we don't know what position people are in already, then at least I'm eating as much as I can in that one meal that I am controlling, right? So everybody's coming at it at a different point. Not everybody's ready to leave behind the restaurants and the pre-made food and the vegan cheese and all of that. So we need to give them some thought process to help them get to where they need to go. Everybody's at a different level. So we asked for some tips and questions, like I said before. So Christina's tip is make enough rice or potatoes for 5 to 7 days, like huge pots, she said. And then you could flavor them differently on each day. So you could take those potatoes or rice and make it Mexican one night and make it Thai another night and make it, more Asian or Chinese flavor another night based on all the different sauces that you're using. And if you change up the flavors, then you're not necessarily getting tired of that staple that you've made.
So basically she's saying use the same base of food, whether it's potato, rice, or if you're using whole grain pasta or sprouted pasta or stuff like that, keep it as a same base, but change the sauce that goes on it daily so that you're mixing up the flavor profiles.
Exactly. And then you have Jessica, who has a very big family. She's a family of 8. And she kind of said, and it wasn't in response to Christina, but she said that sometimes meal planning, it looks different because of the size of the family or the lifestyle. So prepping all of that in advance, making rice for 8 people for 5 or 6 days in a row is just not feasible, not possible. The pots aren't big enough. There's not enough room in the refrigerator. There's not enough room in the freezer. So, and that might take, you might have to boil 3 pots of rice or 3 pots of potatoes to be able to make that. So really spending way too much time doing all of that, and it's not worth it. So for a family of 8, batch cooking might not work, but maybe prepping might work. So it might be, okay, while one person is making this meal, 2 other people are cutting up all the other vegetables, what you might need for the next night, so that the next night is a little easier, a little simpler. That's something that I do too sometimes when I'm making my soup. Once I'm done kind of getting the soup in, I might not have enough containers or enough room in the fridge to say, I'm going to make the big stir fry for tomorrow, or I have time to make it fresh, but I might cut up the onions and peppers and garlic so that that's already half done. So the next night it's a lot faster. So we have 2 different things there. We have the batch cooking and we have the prepping, and those look a little bit different. And she also buys some prepared foods for some nights to minimize the time in the kitchen because they are such a big family. But she also said get the whole family helping with meal planning and different tasks.
Getting the whole family involved in your meal planning, but also in your fitness planning, could be a lot of fun. And I think that's a very important point that we need to remember, is that all of this should be fun for you, not necessarily a chore or a challenge. And getting everybody involved makes everybody more accountable and more willing to participate when it comes down to time to do it. So getting everybody involved with fitness and planning out how you're going to be active together is a great way to do it, just like how everybody's going to get involved in preparing meals and planning for it will make a big difference.
And you could try something new sometimes. Don't try a new fitness activity every single day. Don't try making something brand new every single day. Try that 1 to 4 times a month. Say, I'm going to try a new recipe, or let's go tobogganing, or try skating, or go to one of these fitness places and even go in for free. Try something different, but don't make it so often that it burns you out, because the mental ability that goes through new workouts and making new recipes is sometimes too much to handle if you're doing it too much at once. Something fun that we've tried recently is we let the kids be in charge of the night. So we said, what are you going to make? What ingredients do you need? And what help do you need from the adults to be able to make it happen? And we kind of just gave them free range of the kitchen, and it was quite fun. So there you have it. We have given you so much to think about from 2 different spectrums, from the side that is totally planned and the kind that's a little bit more whimsical, and everything else in between, from people who are coming at it from, I've never meal planned before, I've never really taken care of my health before, all the way to, I eat whole foods all the time, but how do I find a few more ideas to make life a little bit easier? I think we've given people a lot to think about, and I think that this will be a good podcast to come back to in a couple of months once you've changed and gotten into some of the routines that you're looking to get into, to say, okay, what else can I find in here in this podcast to really tighten things up a little bit more?
And if you have some tips or tricks or ways that you plan that we haven't discussed that might benefit other people, we will be posting some things on our Instagram that you'll be able to share those with everybody in our audience. And we look forward to hearing what you do to prepare for your fitness and your meals.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans. It really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.